Animal Clinic, and Jason Prance, your State Farm insurance agent in Clinton.
Central Illinois' most listened to agricultural radio station, WHOW, provides the latest farm news online. By directing your browser to IllinoisFarmRadio.com on your favorite electronic device, you'll find the guest list for this week's WHOW morning and noon farm shows, the latest commodity prices, and farm news from the USDA, Illinois Department of Ag, Illinois Farm Bureau, and more. Bookmark this URL on your favorite device, IllinoisFarmRadio.com, IllinoisFarmRadio.com, and be in the know.
I'm staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki, inviting you to listen to a regional radio forecast twice an hour. From Clinton, Monticello, and Lincoln to Bloomington, Decatur, Springfield, and Champaign, you can rely on our localized weather forecast. We'll tell you whether you'll need a snow shovel, raincoat, or sunscreen. We're proud to be part of the regional radio team providing compelling local content to listeners across central Illinois. I'm staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki, glad to be part of your family every day.
Now you can listen to WHOW on any Amazon Alexa-enabled device. There are 3 easy steps. Step 1.
Download the free Alexa app by going to the App Store on your mobile device.
Step 2. Enable our skill by going to the menu, select Skills, then find WHOW, open the skill.
Step 3. Activate the skill by saying, Alexa, play WHOW radio.
That's all there is to it.
And to stop the WHOW stream, just say, Alexa, stop.
WHOW, now on the Amazon Alexa app.
10 minutes after 7 o'clock is news time on this Monday morning. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. And the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. An energy assistance program is seeing more people than usual reach out for help. Breanne Titus with Community Action notes LIHEAP is a program to help people cover energy and utility expenses. She explains they are seeing an increase in people reaching out, in part due to energy companies again sending out disconnecting notices.
So our LIHEAP program basically is an energy assistance program that helps people cover their energy expenses or their utility expenses. So this year has been a little bit different. We've not only helped with energy bills, but we've also helped with water assistance and sewer. So that's been a little different than normal years, but there is definitely a huge need for energy assistance right now. I think during COVID, there was a lot of Maroon and things of those nature. Those types of utility companies were not disconnecting because they were going through hardships and things of that nature. So people were necessarily in an urgency to get their bill covered.
Right.
They were thinking, oh, well, it's going to be fine. And now that that has gone away and Maroon has started to say, if you can't pay your bill, we're going to start disconnecting. People are starting to get a little worried, and they have been definitely calling like crazy. And we have 2 full-time staff members, and then our director, which does appointments half the time. And they have been doing everything they can to help as many people as they can. And they've been doing a fantastic job.
Titus says if you are in potential jeopardy of getting disconnected, the time to reach out is now. Community Action will schedule an appointment as soon as they have one available.
We noticed that it's getting colder outside. We talked about that this morning. The snow is coming. And so if you are in jeopardy or in a situation where you could be disconnected, you need to call us as soon as possible so that we can get you in for an appointment. First available, if possible. If it's an emergency situation, we may be able to get you in sooner than that. But you need to get in soon because the colder weather is not going to go away. And then Maroon is still going to be disconnecting up until a certain point.
Right.
Typically they stop their disconnection notices during the cold people. But we don't know what that's going to look like. We live in Central Illinois. So just be prepared. And notice that, again, we talked earlier in the show that, people don't always want to feel like they need help, but this is a situation. If you need help, you need it now. Contact us and let us do our job so that we can get you in a position where you're not stressing about it through Christmas. You're not stressing through it in the new year. Let us help you now.
Do not be alarmed, though, if your appointment is not as soon as you'd like it to be. Titus says their office is understaffed and overwhelmed with the influx of appointment requests they are receiving.
Be prepared, because there is so many people in need that if you call and talk to our receptionist and we don't have an appointment available till the end of January, be prepared for that mentally. Be patient with us. We're doing as many appointments as we possibly can. Like I mentioned to you off air, we are close to about 1,000 appointment mark. And that sounds insane. That's only been September 1st. And that's all of our 5 counties, and that's 2 full-time staff members. So when you call in and you get upset because, we don't have an appointment soon enough for you, understand that you're not the only one that we're helping. And we are definitely hustling. So we're doing the best that we can. And
Titus notes LIHEAP, it works on a percentage system of what you qualify for. Depending on what you receive and how much your bill is, it could be either one-time assistance or you could receive assistance multiple times throughout the LIHEAP year.
It depends. So everything is on a percentage system of what you qualify for benefits.
Okay.
So if on the first time you come in, you utilize all of that benefit, that is the only time through this LIHEAP year that you can come in for benefit.
Okay.
If you only use, say your bill's half of that, and you only use half of that benefit, you could potentially come in for the second half of the benefit before the end of the program year.
Okay.
Because the end of the program year is May 30th.
Gotcha.
So you have basically from now until May 30th to get that assistance, depending on how high your bill is.
Okay. To learn more about LIHEAP or schedule an appointment, visit capsule.info. That's CAPCIL.info. While the holidays are a joyous time for most, they can be stressful for others. Nadia Kleekamp with Chestnut Health Systems has some tips for managing stress during this time of year. She says the first step is to acknowledge how you're feeling.
Acknowledging your feelings. So there's times where you may are separated from a loved one, or someone that has been close to you has recently passed away. It's okay to find the time to express your feelings. If you're sad, if you feel like you need to cry, it's unrealistic to force yourself to be happy. And recognizing holidays are a joyous time, but they're not always a joyous time for everybody. And taking the time to sit with those feelings and acknowledging those. If you're feeling so sad or so depressed, reach out for help. Talk to somebody. It can be an isolating time for folks. There is a lot of different resources available that can offer support to you, or maybe you can find companionship. Maybe it's a neighbor, a loved one, maybe through your religious community or social groups that you might have. Really find someone that you can reach out to.
Kleekamp indicates it's important to keep things realistic and acknowledge that traditions can change and not everything has to be perfect. Having a budget and sticking to it can also help prevent stress.
Do a budget. Try not to overspend. Think through, realistically, you can't buy your way or overload someone with gifts. Maybe start a gift exchange with family, or create homemade gift opportunities. Even it's been more popular, especially as you've probably seen in the last several years, donating different charities, between Small Business Saturday and Giving Tuesday and all the like. Take advantage of something like that. Of course, planning ahead, right? Anytime you can take opportunity to set aside maybe specific days or plans to focus on, okay, today I'm going to work on this to-do list. Especially if you're a baker or a chef, planning ahead in your meals and making sure that menu is well thought out early enough so you're not making last-minute trips to the store.
Learning to say no and having time for yourself is important to keep in mind this time of year. Kleekamp says while it may be hard to do, people will understand and respect you for taking care of yourself.
Saying yes, when you should say no, can really make you feel resentful, maybe even extra overwhelmed. Having all these holiday parties, hanging out with friends, or friends come into town, you want to meet up with everybody, but recognizing your own capacity and the willingness to tell people no is, people will respect you for that. And making sure you take care of yourself, right? If you have a great exercise routine, sleep routine, diet, or healthy eating plan, stick to it, which I recognize during the holidays, there's a lot of great food out there. But try your best to eat what you normally do, right? And then obviously take a break. It's great to be around a lot of people, but having some time for yourself, even if it's taking your dog for a walk by yourself or spending 15 minutes alone, any way you can kind of reduce your stress, that's really important.
CleCamp implores anyone feeling overwhelmed or anxious during the holidays to call the 988 hotline or contact Chestnut at 888-924-3786. A school district in Logan County will be getting additional tax revenue thanks to a decision by the Logan County Board. The Logan County Board recently approved the development of 2 different wind farms that will be in the Mount Pulaski School District. Superintendent Fred Lamke says he is grateful for the additional tax revenue.
Well, Mount Pulaski's had 2 wind farm projects come through in our school district, and we've been approached by 2 separate companies that looking to do wind farms again, and they went before the county board last night, and both the wind farms got approval to go ahead and put up probably in total in our district probably about another 50 wind turbines. Well, that's added tax revenue that's going to come into our school district. These projects probably won't begin until next year, and they probably won't affect our school district until the 2025 school year. But what it does for us, it just gives a little more financial security and stability, knowing that for a projected 20-year period of time that we're going to have a steady local revenue that we don't have to wonder if it's going to be there or not. It's going to be part of our tax base, and it's going to allow us to do some really good things in the school district.
Mr. Lamke notes the district previously has benefited from the wind farm tax revenues. Mount Pulaski was able to use wind farm money to supplement the tax referendum when they redid their high school.
Yeah, if you go back 10 years ago, our school district was in pretty much financial dire straits. We were just barely keeping our ed fund in the black. We were downsizing our staff, and we were just getting by the best that we could. Move forward 5 or 6 years, the wind farm project started coming in, and it opened a lot of doors for us. While our taxpayers were very gracious and passed a $10 million referendum to build a new high school, it allowed us to do other things in that project to make that high school what the students needed, not just good enough, but better serving them instructionally, better serving the community and district. And that was a benefit of the wind farms. And then since that time, being able to add back instructional staff and support staff, adding resources and curriculum, it's opened doors that weren't open 10 years ago.
Lamke states during his 10-year property values in Mount Pulaski schools have risen exponentially due to his belief the wind farms. He explains the additional revenue will allow the district to plan for the future and cross projects off their wish list.
Well, it varies a little bit. I can tell you this, that from the time I've been here, the assessed evaluation of our property in the Mount Pulaski School District has gone up about $50 million. And I would anticipate that these 2 new projects coming in make it go up about another 20 to 25 million. And I guess a good way of looking at it, I would say it's bringing in about another $1.5 million a year to our school district.
Wow.
And that's before the new wind farms kick in.
Wow.
And that's been good, because now instead of living year by year trying to remain in the black, that we are now able to have stable financial funds, that we have good reserves in case we need them, but also we're doing improvements that Mount Pulaski hasn't been able to do for decades because the money just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So the new high school project is really just coming to complete next week as we finish up the parking lot. We got some renovations we want to do in the future, but it's in really, really nice shape. And we're starting to look at what we can do in our grade school to start making renovations there, and even considering some other projects down the road. So these are things that without the additional tax revenues that we just wouldn't be able to accomplish.
The Mount Pulaski School Board at its next meeting will be putting together a capital project of what it would like to accomplish in the short term and the long term. 22 minutes after the hour on this Monday, coverage of news brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. More to get to next on the morning show.
Are you a friend of agriculture? This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. we're giving a $500 Friends of Ag discount to anyone that orders a new Chevrolet or Buick to be built just for you this month. Are you a friend of Ag? You are if you're a member of any ag organization, employed by any ag-related business, including research, inputs, manufacturing, sales, and marketing, and of course, ag education. Come in, order yours today. BombChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
23 minutes after the hour on this Monday. Again, the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Producers of eligible crops still have time to submit applications for assistance under USDA's Emergency Relief Program. Rod Bain tells us more.
The application deadline approaches for Phase 1 of USDA's Emergency Relief Program.
The deadline on that is December 16th, and that's so we can understand the amount of money we had to use for that phase.
Farm Service Agency Administrator Zach Ducheneau saying that's in preparation for the upcoming rollout of Phase 2 of ERP. ERP Phase 1, meanwhile, has paid over $7 billion to producers who incurred eligible crop losses due to disaster during crop years 2020 and 2021. Losses covered by federal crop insurance or the non-insured crop disaster assistance program.
We worked with our sister agency, the Risk Management Agency, to get indemnified losses for producers so that we could use that as the threshold for making additional payments.
Applications for ERP Phase 1 funding are being accepted at local FSA offices. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
If you're a farmer, you should soon be seeing in your mailbox some information about the upcoming Census of Agriculture. Gary Crawford has more.
Farmers, if you have sold at least $1,000 worth of product this year, you are about to become a key player in the most enormous data collection effort that the USDA does.
And to say it's an enormous effort is probably an understatement.
That's Barbara Rader. She's the director of the Census of Agriculture for the USDA Statistics Service. She and her folks have been working and planning this new project since the last census concluded 5 years ago. But now it's time to bring in the most important contributors to this new census, the farmers. Barbara says USDA has just mailed census information letters to every farmer in the country.
Talking about the census and giving each person that receives a letter a code that allows them to go online and complete the census online.
And she says that's the best way to do it.
It's the most efficient, it's secure, it's convenient.
But in December, just to make sure, USDA will mail out nearly 3 million actual paper questionnaires.
And that's like 17 tractor trailers.
So maybe enormous was an understatement. Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
New data shows beef cattle numbers are still falling. Is there a herd rebuild anywhere in sight? Gary Crawford files this report.
If there has been any doubt about the nation's beef cattle herd continuing to shrink, the latest USDA report on cattle feedlot activity should erase that doubt, right?
That's true.
That's true. Agriculture Department livestock analyst Shale Shagam. The report puts placements of animals into feedlots during October at just over 2.1 million head.
Lower than a number of analysts were expecting.
6% lower than October a year ago. And
that placement number is actually the lowest placement number for October since the series began in 1996.
Which has left the inventory of animals in feedlots November 1st at 11.7 million head, 2% fewer than November of last year. As to how we got to this point, it's been the same old sad story all year.
As the drought has affected large portions of the United States, producers were faced with poor forage conditions. They were faced with ideas of low availability of hay to probably overwinter some of these animals. And that was reflected in the fact that we saw very high placements of animals earlier in the year. We've seen high levels of cow slaughter. And as the number of cattle outside feedlots diminished, placement numbers going forward have gotten smaller.
Leading to the prospect of even smaller supplies of cattle and less beef production as we head into 2023. USDA's most recent projections put 2023 beef output expected down 7% from this year. Average steer prices up about the same percentage. So we are definitely on the downside of the cattle cycle.
My question is how do we look at that for a continued decline longer run?
Or are there signs of maybe a turnaround in the cycle? If so, when? USDA Chief Economist Seth Meyer is certainly looking for any clues on that. He told us that right now,
we continue to have poor forage conditions in the West, high feed costs, So I'm continuing to watch cow slaughter, continuing to even look at anecdotal price information for heifers, just looking there to say, when are we going to maybe turn this
and start to rebuild cattle herds? But right now, Shale Shagam says, as far as incentive to rebuild,
is going to depend on availability of forage. And right now we are continuing to see very large cow slaughter, well above year-ago levels. So at the moment, it doesn't appear that there is incentive.
He says even the prospect of higher cattle prices doesn't make up for lower forage supplies across the country. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
28 minutes after the hour here on this Monday morning, coverage of the morning show brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. As we come up on 7:30 on this Monday, a look at network sports comes your way. That follows a look at network news. Then we get a look at local sports, and Clinton High School Scott Webb named to the CIC All-Conference first team for both offensive and defensive line. A look at other Maroons that were recognized on the All-Conference team announced over the weekend in the Central Illinois Conference. The Clinton Maroons boys basketball team has started the season 3-1. They embark on a busy week this week. A look ahead for the Maroons on the hardwood this week, as well as the girls basketball squad, and they will return to the airwaves this evening when they host Tolono Unity at Clinton High School. Here, girls basketball tonight right here on WHOW. Those stories and more coming your way next in sports. Get news anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com. Network News is now.
With SRN News, I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. Hawaii's Mauna Loa, the world's largest active volcano, has started to erupt, prompting volcanic ash and debris to fall nearby. The eruption began late last night. Authorities say this morning lava flows are contained and are not threatening any nearby communities. A small plane hit a utility tower and got stuck in the power lines in Gaithersburg, Maryland last night. It knocked out power to tens of thousands of homes and businesses. The pilot and passenger were rescued after several hours of dangling 100 feet in the air. Power has since been restored to the area. A major drug bust being reported in Europe. Law enforcement authorities in 6 different countries have joined forces to take down a super cartel of drug traffickers, arresting 4 dozen suspects and seizing over 30 tons of drugs. Dow futures down this morning. This is SRN News.
6.
With SRN Sports, I'm Michael Harrington. Let's take a look at what happened in the NFL on Sunday. Nick Chubb scored on a 3-yard touchdown run with 19 seconds left in overtime, and Cleveland rallied to stun Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-17 in Browns quarterback Jacoby Brissett's final start before Deshaun Watson returns from his suspension. Chubb powered through a pile of bodies at the goal line as the Browns set Brissett off with a win. Watson, who was banned 11 games by the NFL for sexual misconduct allegations, will start next week against Houston. Browns forced overtime on tight end David Njoku's remarkable one-handed TD catch. Elsewhere yesterday, Carolina topped the Broncos 23-10. It was the Bengals 20 and the Titans 16. Jacksonville surprised the Baltimore Ravens 28-27. It was Miami 30 and Houston 15. Jets got the better of the Bears by a 31-10 score. Commanders 19, Atlanta 13. This is SRN Sports. Rounding up the rest of your NFL tallies from yesterday, Chargers 25, Arizona 24. The Raiders got by Seattle in overtime 40-34. Chiefs 26, Rams 10, and the 49ers win again, beating New Orleans 13-0. In the NBA yesterday, Brooklyn 111, Portland 97. The Warriors beat Minnesota 137-114. It was the Clippers over the Pacers 114-100, Miami 106, Atlanta 98. Boston got the better of the Wizards 130-121. It was the Sixers over Orlando 133-103. Cleveland 102, Red Wings 94. The Grizzlies beat the Knicks 127-123. It was the Bucks over Dallas 124-115. National Hockey League, Minnesota 4, Arizona 3. The Jets stopped Chicago soundly 7-2. Took overtime for the Canucks to beat the Sharks yesterday 4-3. Seattle 5 and the Ducks 4. This is SRN Sports.
Time now for a look at sports. I'm Seth Lawrence with this report. Clinton High School senior lineman Scott Weber was named to the Central Illinois Conference First Team All-Conference Saturday. Weber was recognized as a unanimous first-teamer on the offensive line and was also selected a first-teamer on the defensive line. Decatur St. Teresa dominated the first-team selections with 9 unique first-team selections on each side of the ball. Shelby, though, had 5 first-team selections between offense and defense, while Tuscola had 4. Central A&M had the other first-team selections. Clinton's Tristan Potts was a second-team all-conference selection at running back, and sophomore Logan Toms was a second-team all-conference selection for Clinton at linebacker, while Dawson Graves was a second-team selection at defensive back. Houston Stapleton and Brett Young were honorable mentions in the CIC all-conference teams. Clinton finished the season 4-5 overall. The Clinton Maroons varsity boys basketball team went 3-1 at this past week's Mount Pulaski Thanksgiving tournament and embark on a busy week this week. Things open tomorrow night for the Maroons when they visit Olympia, who is 0-1 on the season. The Maroons continue its long stretch away from home Friday night when they make the short trip up Highway 51 to visit Maroa Forsyth. Finally, the Maroons play its home opener Saturday evening, hosting Hayworth at 6:30. Looking ahead to next week, the Maroons will look to avenge a regional loss this past February when they host Riverton at Clinton High School on Tuesday. The 1-4 Lady Maroons will look to right the ship starting tonight. They host the 4-0 Tolono Unity Lady Rockets. Game time is 7 p.m. Hear the action right here on the Big 1520 AM, 92.3 FM and 106.5 FM WHOW, as well as our many digital platforms. The Lady Maroons open the CIC slate Thursday night, hosting Sullivan. Jalen Hurts ran for 157 yards to set an Eagles record for a quarterback. He threw for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns as Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers injured his ribs in Philadelphia's 40-33 victory over Green Bay Sunday night. Hurts topped Michael Vick's 130 yards rushing set in December 2010 against the Giants as tops for an Eagles quarterback. He became the first player since at least 1950 with 150-plus rushing yards and 150-plus passing yards with multiple passing touchdowns in a game, and is cementing his status as the NFL MVP frontrunner. He seems poised to take the torch from Rodgers. Hurts helped the Eagles move to 10-1 for the 5th time in history. Miles Sanders ran for 143 yards and 2 scores as Philadelphia rushed for 363 yards overall, the second best total for the franchise. Rodgers left in the third quarter with his team trailing 34-23 after grimacing his way through a drive that led to a Packers field goal. He'd already been playing with a broken thumb and took several hard hits. His replacement, Jordan Love, kept the Packers in the game by connecting with Christian Watson for a 63-yard catch-and-run touchdown that cut Philly's lead to 37-30. But the Packers ran out of time against Hurts, who had 17 rushes and averaged 9.2 yards per carry. Hurts had 254 yards combined, including 126 on the ground, and threw a touchdown pass in the first half as the Eagles built a 27-20 lead. He ripped off runs of 42, 28, and 24 yards. In the second half, he had A.J. Brown for a 6-yard touchdown pass and a 34-20 lead that just added to his staggering numbers on one of the great nights ever for an Eagles quarterback. Hurts topped Michael Vick's 130 yards rushing set in December 2010. Rodgers was just 11 of 16 for 140 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 first-half interceptions. Hurts put on a show in a lively first half that saw 2 Eagles get their first career interceptions, and both teams missed an extra point while combining for 7 touchdowns. Bettors could have cashed in on the over in the first 30 minutes. Philadelphia's high-octane offense has had slowed of late, notably during its first loss of the season in their previous game against Washington and last week's win over Indianapolis that needed a fourth quarter rally. But Hurts put the Packers on notice with early rushes that would make an all-pro running back envious. He ran for 52 yards on the opening drive and set up Kenneth Gainwell's 4-yard touchdown. Rodgers had his second pass attempt batted by cornerback Darius Slay and snagged by Josiah Scott. 3 plays later, Sanders scored on a 15-yard run, but Jake Elliott missed the point after. Rodgers led the pack right back. A.J. Dillon scored on a 20-yard run. Rodgers hit Randall Cobb for an 11-yard score, and it was 14-13 late in the first quarter. Hurts, though, closed the half with a 42-yard run and a 1-yard run close enough to the end zone to set up Sanders' 2-yard scoring run on the first play of the second quarter. Rodgers again came back and threw a 23-yard touchdown pass to Aaron Jones. Mason Crosby matched Elliott with a missed extra point, and the score was tied at 20. That was about all Rodgers could muster. Hurts took it from there and threw a 30-yard touchdown pass to Quez Watkins, whose fumble against the Commanders played a pivotal role in the Eagles' only loss. The Packers will visit the Bears next Sunday. Saku Manalainen and Pierre-Luc Dubois each scored 2 goals as the Winnipeg Jets routed the Blackhawks 7-2 Sunday night, handing Chicago its 7th straight loss. Kyle Connor connected for the 3rd straight game and had 2 assists. Mark Sheffley had his team-leading 11th goal, and Jansen Harkins scored for the Jets. They have won 2 straight and 3 of 4 to improve to 13-6-1. Connor Hellebuck made 23 saves. Defenseman Josh Morrissey had 3 assists as Winnipeg dominated with a 44-shot attack. Their 3rd and 4th lines got the offense rolling. Then the Jets' bigger names joined the party. Dubois netted his 9th and 10th goals in the 3rd period to put the game away. Taylor Radish scored in his second straight game, while Jujar Kara had a power play goal for Chicago, who's 0-6-1 in this slide. The Jets moved ahead of Colorado and into second place in the Central Division. With 27 points, they are 1 behind first place Dallas. Peter Mrazek stopped 37 shots for the Blackhawks. Coach Luke Richardson says his team had ample scoring chances but did not bear down and finish them. The Blackhawks will host Edmonton on Wednesday. Get sports anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki with your regional radio forecast. Cloudy skies expected today with daytime highs approaching 48. South winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Overcast skies tonight, lows dip down to about 39. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow. Slight chance for scattered rain showers. Daytime highs approaching 61.